So, you've bought yourself a new car, or like in my case, a slightly used 23-year-old car.
Slam it.
And now you want to get it roadworthy, so that you can actually drive it. Legally, that is. Sounds simple, right? Well, it's not. So stick around and I'll show you exactly what you need to know to pass your roadworthy test. Now you might think that with that shiny new car that you bought, you can simply just roll up to the nearest testing center, swipe your card, smile, wave, and boom, pass. RWC in your hand.
Back to back. Rugby World Cup.
No, not the Rugby World Cup. That one us Safas know all too well. I'm talking about your roadworthy certificate.
Oh.
Back in the day, roadworthy tests were done at your local municipal testing station by a dude named Koos who had a clipboard in hand, a khaki broekie on, and a suspicious amount of authority. The thing is, cars were simpler back then. Fewer electronics, no TPMS sensors. If it had wheels, lights, and stopped most of the time, it passed. But then came modern regulations, skyrocketing car ownership, and of course, privatization. Now, roadworthy is big business. Private testing centers like DECRA, AVTS, and random RWC huts behind panel beaters have popped up pretty much everywhere. But they're still all government regulated, and yep, that means it can still be nerve-wracking. So, when do you actually need a roadworthy? Well, for us normal, non-taxi driving humans, you'll most likely only need to do a roadworthy when buying or selling a car. When buying a used vehicle, it's usually agreed that the buyer is responsible for getting the car roadworthied. Other scenarios requiring a roadworthy include when you rebuild or restore a vehicle, like damaged code 3 cars, or when you're importing and registering something new or suspicious. Something I suspect that Ferrari LaFerrari from a few years ago didn't really have. If you're buying a brand new car, the dealership typically handles this as part of the sale. Some used car dealerships even throw it in too. But if you're buying privately or from a wholesaler like We Buy Cars, in the case of Green DECRA report vehicles at least, you're on your own boot. Do you need to have a roadworthy done every year? Nope. Not unless you drive a truck, a bus, or a Quantum. Because believe it or not, those need a fresh roadworthy every year and are almost always in a pristine condition. How exactly does this work? Well, once you've bought a vehicle, you generally have 21 days to register it in your name with a valid roadworthy certificate. Ownership can technically be transferred before that, but no license disc will be issued without a valid RWC. So you've got 21 days to arrange and complete the roadworthy, or else your registration will be rejected faster than a Quantum taxi in the yellow lane with its hazards on.
They're going wheel to wheel towards Vale now. Who's going to be last on the brakes? Leclerc has that inside line. Perez goes off the track, cuts the chicane. Off goes Leclerc. Through goes Hamilton. Unbelievable stuff.
Now, given the state of some of our roads and cars in South Africa, you'd be forgiven if you thought that getting your car through roadworthy is just a formality. But the reality is that if you go through the proper legal channels, this can be quite strict. So with all the confusion out there, I decided to take my own MINI Cooper S that I bought from We Buy Cars earlier this year to Menlyn Roadworthy Centre to get it roadworthy. But before that, I had to replace some of the components to ensure that I don't fail to ride on site. First of all, I had to fix the shocks and pretty much most of the suspension components that were just wrecked. I had a turn signal bulb that was gone, pretty easy fix. New wiper blades, fitted 2 new tires, which were 13 years old by the way. And last but not least, I had a bit of an oil leak. This I actually wanted to fix in the proper way, by hosing down the undercarriage. So I couldn't actually do this by myself on that day. So I took it to a car wash and asked them to do it right before the test. And they told me that my car is too low to actually enter the bay where they do undercarriage cleaning. So I literally just left it in fate's hands. How do you book your test? Well, you can technically book online at most places, but at Menlyn, they actually still prefer walk-ins. So you can literally just rock up and they will help you on the day, but you don't know how long you will wait. I did this on a Tuesday just before lunchtime, and I think I waited about 30 minutes before they took my car in. When you get there, you'll need to fill in your car's details, so make sure you have your registration papers with you to fill in details like the VIN number and the engine number and so on. After about 30 minutes, they took my keys and it was my car's turn to perform. So, what exactly do they test on the day? Here they inspect 12 main categories, the first one being identification and documentation. So here they check your VIN number, your engine number, your license plate, all registration info. So here everything has to match. No dodgy paperwork and definitely no engine swaps without clearance. Then they check your electrical system, things like lights, hooter, wipers, indicators, basically everything that just magically stops as soon as you rock up for your test. Then fittings and equipment. They check all the bits bolted onto your car. This includes doors, mirrors, seat belts, bumpers, mudguards. If something's hanging on with cable ties or duct tape, expect to fail. For some reason, they also checked if my car wasn't a school bus. Luckily, this wasn't an issue in my case. Next, braking system. So your brakes better stop you evenly, cleanly, and without sounding like a haunted shopping trolley. They also test the handbrake, they check your brake fluid, and they check the balance between all four wheels. Next up, wheels and tires. So the minimum tire tread depth is 1 millimeter. They'll check your rim condition, check that you've got matching tire sizes, but interestingly, they don't check tire age, which I found quite surprising. Suspension and undercarriage, shocks, pushes, chassis cracks, rust. Basically, they're checking that your car can handle the parkour course that we call our South African roads. Then steering, they will test for steering play, horn linkages, and whether you need two hands and a prayer just to turn into your driveway. Engine leaks, yeah. So if your car leaks more than a boot with a castle light bladder, that should be a fail. Further, excessive smoke and engine mounts is also obviously a no-go. They'll check your exhaust system, no holes, don't be too loud. And your car shouldn't sound like it's from Fast and Furious if you've only got 64 kilowatts. Sorry, ne? Transmission and drive shaft checks, diff play, gearbox noise. If your car steps like Chaselin when you change gears, that is a problem.
Here comes Chaselin Colby. Colby bounces towards the fence. Beats one. Still going. Chaselin Colby. Chaselin Colby.
Instruments, here they'll check just pretty much speedometer. They don't really list any other instruments like tachometer or coolant temperature gauges, which I also found quite interesting. And then finally, dimensions. They check your car's dimensions. I'm not 100% sure what this even means, but I can only assume that if you've widened your car like it's a drift car, you might have a bad time. So yeah, it's not just about whether your lights work. They're judging your car from bumper to bumper, top to bottom, which means no shortcuts. So, what if you fail? Do you have to pay again and start over? Well, luckily not. At Mainland, you get 21 days to fix everything and return for a free retest. Wait too long, start from scratch. This gives you some time to sort out some of the issues, but if it's major stuff, engine stuff, yeah, you might have to pay again. So finally, my car's results. Did we pass? No, we didn't. So, we failed. The Mini failed its roadworthy test. And I don't know if I'm angry about it or not too concerned about it, because the reason it failed is because of this. We failed for not having anti-slip rubber pads on the brake and clutch pedals, even though we literally got a tick for every single checkbox on the list. The car failed. How freaking crazy is that? When the instructor told me this, I literally laughed. I thought he was joking, but the instructor's face stayed dead serious. So this was quite annoying. In a weird way, this failure ended up being a blessing in disguise. So that day, I went to 3 different shops. I went to NASCAR, I went to Goldwagen, I went to AutoZone. So NASCAR, they should have those rubber boots in stock. But the thing is, no one actually bought them since 2023, and they only had like 3 in stock, and apparently that's no longer there. So I'm gonna go see if Goldwagen has. Hopefully they have, and I can just come back. Otherwise, I need to come back within 14 days. If you come back within 14 days, they'll do the test for free. I'm pretty curious to find out now if I do come back immediately. Surely they're not going to do the entire driving test again, right?
Wrong.
But anyway, let's see if I can make this work. So feeling pretty down, pretty frustrated. As a last resort, I decided to phone my dad because he always has a plan. I phoned him and said, Dad, the bastards failed me. And he said, no worries, come to me after work and I'll sort you out. So that's what I did. After work, I visited my dad, and before I could even exit the car, he was busy measuring and stenciling and penciling there by the pedals, and then went into the garage and had a big piece of rubber, and he cut out some rubber stencils that he placed on the pedals, and obviously they fitted perfectly. So he took some contact adhesive glue and we waited for that to dry. And while we were waiting for it to dry, my dad and I, we chatted, we laughed, and then I was on my merry way. Looking back, I told you I was so mad at that instructor for failing me for something so minor. Well, now I wish I could go back and kiss that instructor, because 5 days after this, it would be my dad's last breath that he took on planet Earth. And I actually wouldn't even have visited him that week. So this was actually my last in-person interaction with my dad before he passed away. And I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Here we go again.
Slow down, grab the wall, wiggle like you're trying to make your ass fall off.
Okay, so I thought that was gonna take like 20 minutes because I already did the test. I failed on the smallest freaking thing. I thought they were just gonna check that I've got rubber anti-slip pads on my pedals, but they kind of did the whole test again. I asked the guy why, and he said that no, they need photos. So I'm not really sure what that means. But yeah, so that took an hour and a half again, so massive waste of time. But I'm not complaining because at least you passed, and that's great. Okay, so Roadworthy is done and we passed. So what did we learn from this? Is South Africa's roadworthy test strict? Well, on paper, yes. In practice, it depends. It depends entirely on the tasting center and the taster. Some tasters fail you for anti-slip rubber pedals being missing, and others will literally pass rolling coffins for a cold drink and KFC. Want to pass your roadworthy first time? Go through all 12 of these categories, and even then, you might still want to say a prayer before the test. If your car is held together with zip ties, duct tape and hope, well, maybe don't test roadworthy yet. Thanks for watching this episode of Garage Gambles. If this helped or if it's entertained you, thumbs up, subscribe for more budget build chaos. Cheers. If it had wheels, lights, and stopped most of the time, it passed. Okay, that's not very ladylike.